Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have as our guest today US journalist Anderson Emerole. Hello, Anderson. Lovely to see you, and a big thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Really appreciate being here, Anna.
It's cool seeing each other on screen after spending so much time in the mixed zone in Budapest together. It's nice to have you.
Yes. Budapest was definitely an exciting time, and yeah, we spent so much time there, and it's exciting to get to chat again today. So yeah.
Lovely. So before we start on the athletics news of the last 7 days, including a wonderful Diamond League final in Eugene, let's start by learning more about our guest. So Anderson, I always like to find out when our guests caught the athletics bug. So tell us, what motivated you to get involved in athletics, or track and field, as you guys call it, and start a career as a sports journalist?
Yeah, so when I was younger, just growing up, I born and raised in New York City, and growing up, I used to just run on the streets and run, at school and things like that. And I never really knew about track and field. It was more just as I got older, I became, I guess, one of the faster kids at school, and so one day, I think when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old, I got the chance to go to a summer camp that had a track and field program. And that opened my eyes to the sport where we ran, distance and sprints, and there was like shot put and all kinds of different things. And since then, I had started to get into track and field, and it wasn't until maybe 2008, 2009 is when I became like a true fan of track and field when I was like 19 years old or so. And that's where I was like, oh, wow, this is a whole world of sports and a whole world of sport that I never even imagined. And at that time, I was in college at the University of Hartford. I had the opportunity to run for a Division I school in the United States in NCAA. And I was competing in track and field. I was following the sport on the professional level, and I knew one day that I wanted to either become a photographer or do some coverage of it. And eventually, I got into the journalism realm. I got into the kind of commentary and covering the sport on that aspect. And yeah, it's been so many years, and I just love. I'm really obsessed with track and field. So seeing kind of where I came from to now getting the chance to be speaking with athletes, working with athletes, it's a really kind of exciting thing.
Definitely. And were there any athletes in particular who inspired you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my number one inspiration is Michael Johnson. 400 meter gold medal, four-time gold medalist at the Olympic Games. Of course, he used to hold the world records in the 200 and the 400, and mainly because when I was competing in school, I was running the 200 and the 400. So I always wanted to be like Michael Johnson. When he competed in the 90s, I wasn't old enough yet. I think I was 6 years old when he ran at the 1996 Olympics. But once I did, start competing in the NCAA, I learned so much about him. I became obsessed with just like trying to be like Michael Johnson. So yeah, he was my number one inspiration, and as like an athlete on the athlete side. Uh, yeah. And then I did kind of the second inspiration for me was Christian Taylor from the United States. He's a triple jumper. So Olympic champion, two-time Olympic champion from 2012 and 2016 in the triple jump, and multiple time world champion. He probably inspired me on like the level of getting into the sport and becoming interested in the sport truly. I think he graduated or he became professional in 2011, and that's about the same time that I was finishing university. And so I followed his journey where he won gold at the 2011 World Championships. That was the first time I got to see him. And then I was in Beijing at the World Championships, and I got to see him actually compete. So Christian Taylor really kind of inspired me in track and field.
He's also a really, really cool guy. And I mean, I remember the first World Relays, and he was in the US team, and I'm looking like, is this the same Christian Taylor? And yes, it was.
Yeah, and I know during his time at the University of Florida when he was competing, he ran both or he competed in the triple jump, the long jump, but then he also ran the 4x4s for the university. So yeah, seeing him at the World Relays that year was an amazing thing. You don't see too many athletes who are able to kind of move from the jumps
Yeah,
onto the track in the sprint. So that's really cool.
definitely. So, Anderson, what were your three favorite athletics moments in the course of your career?
Oh, three favorites. So number one for me is was Usain Bolt at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing when he ran 9.69 seconds in the 100-meter dash. To me, that is, the greatest athletics moment in my lifetime, at least following the sport. I mean, the way he was able to win, slowing down 15 meters before the line, that image is just like in my mind, and that was the year. 2008 was the year that I truly say that I became a fan of track and field, of athletics. And really, it was because Usain Bolt. So I'm happy that I got to kind of come up in the Usain Bolt era. Um, and then second, kind of going back to Christian Taylor as one of my inspirations. Christian Taylor at the 2015 World Championships in Beijing when he jumped 18.21 meters in the triple jump, which is the second farthest jump in history. I was in Beijing. I got the chance to be in Beijing, and seeing that jump happen, not only seeing it, but the crowd reaction to that jump was amazing. And everyone was like, initially, did he break the world record? Right? Like it was so, such a kind of tense moment. But then everyone kind of cheered when we saw that mark. So that is another mark. And then my third one is at the 2018 World Indoor Championships, where Emerole as well as Marie-Josée Talou, they won gold and silver in the 60-meter dash, and that's another competition that I got to attend in Birmingham. And I think this was really special to me. Because seeing two women, specifically from a country, from Cote d'Ivoire, that is not well represented in general when we're talking about athletics as a whole, but seeing them get to the highest stage indoors, win the gold and silver medals, I think this really was an amazing kind of a moment for the African continent as a whole. So this was, those are my three favorite moments.
I mean, Muriel Lauré and Marie-Josée Talou, that was so special. And I remember they were just so excited. And when they came up to the interview zone, they were still just shrieking with joy because it was such a huge achievement for them.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah. And Usain, I remember being I'd rarely be out on the media tribune when I was working with the IAAF, but I was on the tribune for Usain Bolt. And there was a kind of silence, you remember? And then I looked up in the tribune and all the journalists were like this, with their jaw dropping. It was just so awesome. Mhm.
Yeah, amazing moments in track and field. Yeah, these are the moments that really make me love the sport. Yeah, so these are amazing.
Brilliant. So let's look now at what's been happening in our sport over the last week, starting with the Prefontaine Classic, 16 and 17 September, which this year was the Diamond League finals. And what a meeting. Two world records, one under 20 world record, 9 area records, 14 world leads. Just an amazing meeting. So let's start with the world records. Sweden's pole vault supremo Mondo Duplantis had attempted the world record several times this season, including in Brussels a week before, and finally cleared 6:23 in Eugene, his seventh world record overall, and the second one in two competitions in 2 years in Eugene. And he did it on the first attempt. So he's had another amazing season, and we'll come back later to review his stunning stats. The other world record in Eugene came from Ethiopia's Gudaf Segai, who destroyed the 5,000-meter record which Faith Kipyegon had set in Paris, taking 4 seconds 99 off that mark, with 14 minutes 00.21, coming tantalizingly close to being the first woman to run under 14 minutes. Now, Tsegay had been unhappy about losing her 5,000-meter crown in Budapest, fading from first to 13th in the last 700 meters, though she had earlier led an all-Ethiopian sweep in the 10,000. So in Eugene, she was back with a vengeance, taking the world record back to Ethiopia in a dominant display, and second placed Beatrice Chebet was a full 5 seconds behind, but in a very good time, became number 3 in the all-time list. Now, Anderson, what 5 athletes impressed you the most in Eugene?
Yeah, so in Eugene, I had the opportunity to be in Eugene to cover it, and there's so many athletes, but there's a couple that I do want to mention. First of all, Rai Benjamin in the 400-meter hurdles. He, was able to get the win over Karsten Warholm. This is the second time he's beat Karsten Warholm. He beat him at the World Championships in 2022, but Karsten was dealing with some injuries. So for Rai Benjamin to not only get the win here, to run his second fastest time ever, 46.39 seconds. I think this was, a huge piece of redemption for him now going into the Olympic year, where I know he wants to get the gold, but it'll sets up for a great kind of storyline and competition with Rai Benjamin and Karsten Warholm. The second one for me was Karani James in the 400. And I mean, everyone knows Karani James. He's one of the most humble, one of the most grateful, one of the most amazing athletes I think that has ever competed in track and field. And for him to close out his season with a win at the Diamond League final, he competed at the World Championships, but unfortunately was disqualified. He shows so much, grit, fight, determination. I love Karani James and, the career that he's been able to put together. So it was great seeing him win there. The third one.
I also love Kirani.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he's gone through a lot with Graves' disease in 2017, the death of his mother in 2019, and his coach, Harvey Glantz, in June this year. So it's been a difficult period, but as you say, he's one of the loveliest persons in the sport.
Absolutely. And I've been humbled to have the opportunity to speak with him, a few times, and yeah, absolutely one of the loveliest. I know whenever he finishes his career, he will be remembered as one of the greats for sure. So the third person is Shanika Ricketts from Jamaica in the women's triple jump. She really has put together an amazing performance in Eugene, where she jumped 15.03 meters. It's not, we have Yulimar Rojas who's setting the world records and hitting these high marks, but Shanika Ricketts specifically has been jumping 14.9 meters multiple times through her career. And this year, she was able to really get over that hump and get over the 15-meter barrier. And again, specifically setting a personal best in the triple jump in Eugene with 15.03 meters. An amazing performance to cap off her season, which I love to see. And then just two others. I have Christian Coleman in the men's 100-meter dash. And he has had a kind of up and down season where he's won a lot of races, he's lost a lot of races. He unfortunately came up short at the World Championships. He, of course, is a 2019 world champion. But for him to kind of end off his season with a Diamond League win, I think this is his second Diamond League win after 2018. He won the 100 meters at the Diamond League. And to end it off with, equaling the world lead, this I know is a huge motivating factor for him going into next year. And then, of course, the storyline of, Christian Coleman versus Noah Lyles versus, all the other guys, Omanyala, Marcel Jacobs, Fred Curley, right? It's going to create some really great storylines going into the Olympic year. And then finally, on my end, I do have Twanisha Terry also in the 100-meter dash. This might be a little outside of the norm, but, she only finished, I think, 5th at the Diamond League final in the 100-meter dash. But what I think Twanisha Terry kind of exudes is here, she wasn't able to break 11 all year. And now here in Eugene, she ran 10.83 seconds, which is her second fastest time of her career. And in the mix zone afterwards, she was speaking about how, she was kind of beating herself up a little bit mentally, but she kind of let all that go. She was able to like lean on her support system to be able to just put things together here in the final. So I really love Twani Shateri and all the grit and all the fight and all the everything that she puts together and she was able to do in Eugene.
Thank you, Anderson. Now that race between Rai Benjamin and Karsten, that was also one of my favorites. And Kirani's fourth Diamond League win, 12 years after his first one in 2011, that was also special. And he's the only one with Faith Kipyegon to have won 5, even though someone whom I'll mention later has won to have won 4, and one other person has managed to win 5. So I'd like to mention a few special moments, starting with Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who left Eugene with 2 diamonds and 2 European records. So let's start with the mile. The Norwegian clocked 3 minutes 43.73, slashing the previous continental best set by Steve Cram back in 1985 by over 2.5 seconds. And he was challenged right to the finish line by the USA's Yared Nuguse, who was rewarded with an area record of 3:43.97, 3 seconds better than Alan Webb's 2007 mark. And Kenya's Reynold Kipkorir Cheruiyot, finishing in 5th place in 3:48.06, set a world under 20 record, his second world age category top performance in 8 days, after his world under 20 best over 2000 in Brussels. Now to go back to Ingebrigtsen, on the 3000 meters, the fight to the line was even closer, as Ethiopia's Lamecha Girma was right there with the Norwegian, who had to lean in so hard to finally prevail by only 1/100th of a second that he tumbled to the ground. Ingebrigtsen thus earned his second European record in Eugene, his third of the year, in addition to 1 world record and 1 world best, clocking 7:23.63 to the Ethiopians' 7:23.64, to slash 3 seconds off Belgium's Mohamed Mourhit's 23-year-old mark. And then another great showing by US athletes. Grant Fisher, in 3rd spot, improved the NACAC area record to 7:25.47, a big improvement on the previous mark by Bernard Lagat. And I think we should also mention the other athlete who left Eugene with 2 victories, Shericka Jackson. The Jamaican won the 100 in 10.70 and the 200 in 20.57, her 5th mark in the top 8 of all time. Not quite as close to Floaty's world record as she was in Budapest, but still a great performance. Now, Anderson, I think women's sprinting looks to be in a great place now, with Shericka Jackson getting better with age, Sha'Carri Richardson showing the depth of her talent, Marie-Josée Talou still going strong, and a number of young athletes posting great times.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is a big generation. This is a really, really big generation for women sprinting between the 100 and the 200. Like you said, I don't know if, Shericka, she got close to the world record in the 200, but it's even crazy to think that we're talking about, women getting close to Flojo's records. Those were marks that were thought as impossible. So it's really an amazing era for women sprinting right now.
Thank you. So to continue my special moments from Eugene, I'd like to mention Serbia's Ivana Vuleta, who won a record 5th Diamond League final in the long jump. And while her mark 6 meters 85 is not exceptional, I really appreciated the fact that even before her final jump was measured, Vuleta went to console Nigeria's Eze Brume, who had been leading with 6:85, but could not take her last attempt due to an ankle injury. And young Italian jumper Larissa Iapichino has stated that she respects all her components, but particularly appreciates Vuleta, who is the one who gave her the best encouragement and the best advice. So indeed, a great lady. And I think Joe Kovacs deserves huge credit for continuing to give his best in spite of having such a dominant figure as Ryan Krauser in his event. And Diamond League finals seem to bring out the best in him. As last year in Zurich, Kovacs came out on top, edging out Krauser by a mere 2 centimeters, 22 meters 93 to 22 meters 91 in a very high quality competition. And finally, my special mention to Nicola Olislagers, not only because of her Oceania record of 2 meters 03, same measure as winner Jaroslava Maguchik, but especially for the sheer joy she radiates on every jump. And that makes the Australian Olympic silver medalist and Budapest bronze one of my favorite athletes. Now, talking about Australians, we need to mention the last 2 area records. One was achieved by Lyndon Hall, who further improved her own 1,500 meters continental best, which she had set in July, clocking 3:56.92. And the last area record came from Bahrain's Winfred Mutil-Yavi, who clocked 8 minutes 50.66 in the 1,000-meter steeplechase, the second best mark of all time and an Asian record. But let's go back for a moment and look in detail at Mondo Duplantis's career.
Yes.
So Mondo was a world under 18 champion in 2015 when he was aged 16. In 2018, he won world under 20 gold. He improved the world record a total of 7 times between 2020 and 2023, 5 times indoor, twice outdoor. He's the reigning indoor and double outdoor champion, and he won all those competitions with a world record. In 2020, he won all 16 of his competitions. In the following year, 21, he won 15 out of 17. Last year, 18 out of 19. And this year, 16 out of 17. He has jumped over 6 meters or higher in a total of 15 events in 22, 14 events in 23, and has a total of 74 jumps in his career over 6 meters. Now, nobody comes that close. And I think the last one is the most impressive. The average of his 10 best jumps is 6 meters, 0.183. And that's 2 centimeters higher than the next best athlete, Lavillenie. His best at the time, a world record, 6 meters 16, and Bubka, 6 meters 14. And he's only turning 24 in November. So totally amazing, maybe because I have a soft spot for the pole vault, but I really find Mondo to be totally impressive. So it's time to go back now to the global overview of our sport and look at the world leads. There were 14 of them in the last 7 days, all set at the pre-classic in Eugene. So Christian Coleman, as we saw, he equaled the world lead for the second time in 8 days. Emmanuel Wanyonyi, finally an athlete under 143 and a junior athlete. Mile and 3,000 meters for Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Very good performance by Hansel Parchment in the high hurdles. Rai Benjamin in the 400 hurdles, and Mondo in the pole vault. Among the women, again, very good performance by Athing Mo. Now, it was funny that, you see her winning the race, and then it's Keely Hodgkinson who goes out with the diamond trophy, because Athing had been entered as a wild card, so she couldn't win the final. But it was great to see her under 155. Udaf Segai world record, Winfried Mutile-Yavi area record. And again, good marks in the high jump. though it's not as good as it used to be in the past. Yulimar Rojas back with a measure that is more reflective of her talent, and Chase Ely, 20 meters 76. And we'll talk a little bit more about Chase later. Now, Anderson, I think some people were thinking that maybe athletes would be tired at the end of such a long season, but results in Eugene were extremely good.
Yeah, I think that a lot of athletes loved the opportunity to come to Eugene. Maybe they were reminiscent of Eugene last year at the World Championships, where we saw some amazing performances. So now having a Diamond League final here, I think really led to athletes getting excited, seeing amazing performances. Just like we spoke about, all the different world records, all the different kind of world leads and top marks. I think the athletes wanted to kind of go out on a high note. So yeah, and Eugene is a really, really special place where, the fans are really, really dedicated and knowledgeable about track and field. They're always out there cheering. And it's just the second year of the track being rebuilt, being built there. So I think the athletes really loved it.
Mm-mm. I think the one black spot, though, is Cuban athletes not getting visas. Especially Liagdamis Povea and
I think Perez Fernandez.
Yeah, exactly. They had really good, they're very, very good athletes. They were close in the 1490s. So I think that's unfair, especially when you get so many points at a Diamond League final, and that will really affect their ranking. So I think it's extremely unfair. When athletes who travel all over the world, why shouldn't they get a visa to come to a particular country? But anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hopefully in the future things can be made easier so the athletes get the opportunity to be able to compete. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because several athletes and officials and journalists from Africa, from South America, they're saying how difficult it is for their athletes to get good ranking points because they do have trouble with visas. They have trouble traveling to Europe or to the US, where most of the competitions take place because of cost, and then sometimes they're denied visas. So, I mean, I like the ranking system, but it is true that this kind of situation does affect athletes from Africa and South America and Latin America in general. Mm-mm.
Yes, 100%. And I definitely agree. I think either, maybe there needs to be some restructuring or something where there's more opportunities in the different continents, right? Across Africa, across Latin and South America. I know, of course, World Athletics has been introducing like continental tours in Africa specifically. But, a lot of the athletes, it's not easy to travel around Africa or Latin America. And, the sport does have some of the big meets in Europe, of course, in the United States with the Diamond League final within Eugene. But yeah, if there was another way to give athletes either the opportunity or, modify the rankings so that they can, develop some points to be able to get ranked in certain ways, I think that'd be super helpful for some of the athletes.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Anderson. So we saw the world leads from Eugene, but not all world leads are top level marks, although this week they were all very good. So we also continue to check the best results of the past week, and there were so many. And let's start with the men's events. So 100 meters, that was a really good final with Christian Coleman, 983, Noah Lyles, 985, Ferdinand Omanyala, also just 0.02 of a second behind, and Shane Thompson, 987. So very high level mark. Andre de Grasse back on top in the 200 with 19.76. Emmanuel Magnoni, we've already mentioned. Great performances by Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but also Jared Nuguste. And then in the 3000, that was a really very high level competition with Ingebrigtsen and Yomif Kejelcha, who move respectively to number 3 of all time and number 4 of all time. And Kejelcha improved the a national record by a certain Haile Gebrselassie. Grant Fisher moved into number 8 of all time. Ethiopia's Telahun Haile Bekele, number 9 of all time, and Selemon Barega, Beru Rihuaregai, and Luis Grijalva all clocked really, really good times in Eugene. 110 hurdles was also very good with Hansel Parchment. Now, this Rashid Muratake is the only mark in last 7 days, which is among the top and which was not set in Eugene. That was in Japan, in Kumagaya. Very good 13:04. He improved the national record. And then in Eugene, Grant Holloway and Daniel Roberts. 400 hurdles, as we saw, very, very high quality race. And that is really one event which I think is so dynamic with Karsten, with Rai, with Allison coming back, with Kyron McMaster doing well. So that's one of the events that I really look forward to the most all the time. Pole vault world record for Mondo, but he was so far ahead of everyone else. And in the shot put, that was a very, very high quality competition with Kovacs and Krauser, but also Tom Walsh and also my compatriot Leonardo Fabri with very good marks. Now, on the women's side, we also had a very good 100 meters with 4 ladies under in 10:80 or less. Sharika Jackson, 10.70. Marie-Josée Talou, 10.75. Then Elaine Thompson, 10.79. And Shakari, 10.80. In the 200 meters, very good mark by Sharika Jackson, but Marie-Josée Talou was a little far behind. In the 800, Athing Mo, we mentioned, Keely Hodgkins, also good, and Athing moves up to number 8 in the all-time list, so which is a very good performance. 1500 meters was also very good with Faith Kipyegon, Diribe Velteji. Laura Muir has been having a good end of the season, and Frewenyi Hailu, all with really good marks. In the 5,000, we mentioned Gudaf Segai and Beatrice Chebet. The other ladies were a bit further behind. Over 3,000 steeplechase, also a very high quality competition with Winfried Mutilejavi, Beatrice Chepkoech, Faith Cherotic, whom we'll mention again later, and Jacqueline Chepkoech. In the 100 hurdles, Tobia Musan maybe had good memories from last year. She won in 12:33. Another great performance by Femke Bol in the 400 hurdles, 51.98. Yaroslava Magutic and Nicola Olislavers in the high jump. Yulimar Rojas, we mentioned, and Chase Ely, 20 meters 76, is the longest throw since 2015 and is the best ever for a woman using the rotational technique. So that was special. And Chase has had a bit of an up and down season, so it was good to see her back doing so well. So Anderson, although Asian Games and Pan Am Games are still to be staged, outdoor season is basically winding up now, so we can look back at the whole year. So can you tell us what were your 3 favorite athletics moments outside the World Championships, which we mentioned, and the Diamond League final in Budapest?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we still have, yes, Asian Games, Pan American Games. I do want to shout out all the athletes who will be competing, who will still have a little bit left in their season. But yeah, from the past year, outside of the World Championships and outside of the Diamond League final, 3 main marks and performances. So earlier at the NCAA Championships, I did love seeing Rashida Adeleke from she competes for Ireland and she competed for the University of Texas in the NCAA. She won the 400 meters at the NCAA Championships, and this was a really big performance. One, because it was on her competing at the University of Texas. That's where NCAA Championships were. And she also was competing against Britton Wilson, who was kind of might have been the favorite coming in. Britton Wilson was doing the double, the 400 and the 400 hurdles, but Adeleke was able to get the win here in a personal best of 49.2 seconds. And I think she'd only been training for the 400 for like a year and a half or so. So she's relatively new to the event. And I know everyone in Ireland was, amazed to see her get the win at NCAAs. But then second is my next performance is Kayla White at the in the 200 meters at the USA Championships. And specifically her, she didn't win. She finished third place actually in the 200, but she qualified for her first world championship team. And I think that I really love this performance because she wasn't one of the favorites to make the team to the world championships. Everyone, of course, was looking at Gabby Thomas and Shakira Richardson, who, of course, went on to win medals at the world championships in Budapest. But then you also had some other ladies like Abby Steiner and, Jenna Prandini, some others who had a little bit more experience. But I think Kayla White in that 200 meters really showed that, sometimes it may not be the top name. It may not be, the person that everyone is watching. It may be someone who is like kind of quietly making progress through their career and they'll finally get their moment. So Kayla White in the 200 at USA Championships. And then finally for me, this is one of my favorites, was Jaden Hibbert from Jamaica competing for the University of Arkansas in the triple jump. Actually I think it was the SEC Championships. He jumped 17.87 meters, which is a huge performance, almost jumping 18 meters. He's still a junior, he's not even, I think he's still just 18 years old, 18 or 19 years old. And he's almost jumping 18 meters. He's broken the world junior record or the world U20 record multiple times. And he, had the potential. I think that mark is still the world lead, 17.87 meters. He had the potential to win maybe gold at the world championships. Unfortunately, I think he had a little bit of a discomfort in his hamstring, so he dropped out. But that performance of him with that 17.87 meter jump in the triple is easily one of my favorite performances. I mean, not even of just 2023 that I've ever seen. So huge potential for Jaden Hibbert going forward in the future.
Definitely. I mean, he's super talented and he's also just such a nice kid. It really is a pleasure to see him and to hear him speaking. He's always fun. He's always positive. He's just a great guy.
Yes. I love speaking with Jaden Hibbert.
Yeah. And Anderson, who were your major surprises? Two athletes you didn't expect to perform so well this year.
Yes, absolutely. So two major surprises that I did have, and I'm really proud of their accomplishments. So first off is Quincy Hall from the United States in the men's 400 meter dash. He managed to get a bronze medal at the World Championships in the 400. He pushed through to get onto that podium. And it was a surprise kind of because entering this year, he was focused on the 400 meter hurdles for most of his career. And he not only decided to switch over to the 400, he also switched his training group. He now trains down in Florida with Mike Holloway at the University of Florida. And for him to be able to have so much determination to not only make the USA team to the World Championships, but then to go through the rounds and to make it onto the podium, to run personal best throughout. I mean, Quincy Hall, that's not an easy feat for anyone to do, to make so many changes. So it was a huge surprise to see him on the podium, but I loved, the opportunity to see him on the podium. And I've had the opportunity to speak with him many times, both in the mixed zone and, kind of just outside as well. And he is such an amazing person. And, he has a daughter, he's running for his family. So amazing, there. That was a big surprise for me. And then finally, I think this might have been a surprise for many people as well, but Danielle Williams from Jamaica in the women's 100 meter hurdles, winning the gold medal in 2023 this year, 8 years after she did it in Beijing 2015. She didn't have the most amazing season. Everyone was watching, Jasmine Camacho Quinn and Nia Ali and even Toby Amisan for a little bit as well. Kenny Harrison, everyone was kind of having their eyes on them. Whereas Danielle Williams is very similar to a 2015 year where she just quietly kind of remained consistent, kind of crept up. And then she got to that final, and you could see the expression, you could see the joy in her face, where she's just elated. So it was kind of surprising for me, and I've had this opportunity to speak with her a few times since, and she is just super humble, super grateful, and I know she's looking forward to 2024. So yeah, those are my two kind of surprises in 2023 this year.
Thank you, Anderson. Let's take a look now at under 20 and under 18 athletes, because several athletes in this age group also registered great performances. So let's start with the under 20. Now, among the men, Emmanuel Wagnoni, as we mentioned, 142.80 is number 5 in the under 20 all-time list. And in the mile, Niels Laros on 16 September with 348.93. He set an area record. He's number 2 in the under 20 all-time list, behind Reynold Kipkorir Cheruyot. Now, what's interesting is that European under 20 record belonged to Ingebrigtsen, who had set it in May 9, 2018, and then improved it in June 2019. So Ingebrigtsen got some, and he lost one in Eugene. Among the women, amazing 17-year-old Birke Heilom, 356.98 in the 1500. That's the number 8 under 20 mark of all time. And she also has the number 4 under 20 mark of all time. In the 3,000 meter steeplechase, Faith Cherotic, another great performance. With 8:59.65, she remains number 2 in the under 20 all-time list, but improves her time. Now, among the under 18 athletes, there's 2 performances which we didn't have last week by 2 Brazilian athletes, both marks set at the Brazilian Youth Games, Jogos da Juventude, in Pirassununga in Brazil. 10.20 in the 100 meters for Paulo Henrique Pedroso, who equals the number 6 under 18 mark of all time. And in the hurdles, 0.91 centimeters, 13.20 for Vinicius De Brito, who moves up to equal number 10 in the under 18 all-time list. And Birke Heilom, we had already mentioned, very good even among the under 20, but that is the number 4 under 18 mark of all time, and she also has the number 2. So Anderson, who were your 2 favorite under 20 or under 18 athletes of 2023?
Yeah, so 2 that I want to speak about. One of them actually broke a U20 record as well. But first, I want to speak about Alana Reid from Jamaica. And Alana Reid, she's really had a huge rise in 2023. She's still only 18 years old. And she ran, one of the fastest U20 record or U20 times in history. I think 10.92 seconds is the 6, makes her number 6 all time in U20 history. But I think what was really, really notable was that, in the midst of kind of this surge of Jamaican sprinting, and, kind of these amazing Jamaican sprinters, we know Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Elaine Thompson-Herah, Sharika Jackson, you have someone like Alana Reid, who is really on the rise and really making waves to become the future, right, of Jamaican sprinting, showing that, Jamaica is not stopping. They're going to have a lot of women kind of, into the future. So Alana Reid is my first one. But then the next one is Roshan Clark, also from Jamaica, in the men's 400-meter hurdles. Now, he broke the U20 record in the 400-meter hurdles this year, running 47.34 seconds, actually in the semifinals of the World Championships in Budapest. And, I mean, if anyone's there and remembers, the semifinals in Budapest in the 400 hurdles were really, really amazing. So many amazing performances, and Roshan Clark was one of the leaders there. He went on to finish 4th place in the final, but again, we're talking about a U20 athlete. He's still extremely young, and he has such a bright, bright future where we could see him run, sub 47 seconds, potentially next year, considering how much progress the event has been making. So, yeah, Alana Reed, Rashawn Clark, those are my two, kind of U20 athletes who I'm really, really excited to see this year.
Definitely. And I mean, as I was saying before, the 400 hurdles is already such a great race. You add Roshan into the mix, and that makes it even better.
Yes.
So for my part, I would like to speak about two exceptional underage athletes, and that's Arion Knighton and Birke Heilom. So Arion Knighton ran another great race in Eugene, the last before he joins the senior ranks as he turns 20 on 29 January 24. So he's a very quiet athlete, but his career so far has been extraordinary. So he owns the world under 20 record in the 200, officially with 19.69, because the stunning time of 19.49 is not ratified by World Athletics as a world record. He owns the top 7 under 18 marks at the distance of all time, and the 8th is by Usain Bolt. And among the under 20, he was even more dominant because he has the top 13 marks of all time. And again, the one who is behind him is Usain Bolt. Between 21 and 23, he has clocked 18 sub 20 marks. He was silver at the Olympics in Tokyo, aged only 17. He was a bronze at the Oregon 22 World Championships and silver in Budapest. And this year, in only one of his 8 finals, did he not run below 20 seconds. So definitely very, very impressive athlete. Now here we have the photo from the US Championships last year, where Arion Knighton ran the recognized world record of 19.69 and has Noah Lyles doing this thing sign at him, and that created quite a buzz. So Anderson, what do you think of Arion?
Arion Knighton is turning into one of my favorite athletes for, again, how young he is. He owns, I think, the top 10 U20 marks all time in the 200 now. He's been rising where he got 4th place at the Tokyo Olympic Games. He got 3rd place at the 2022 World Championships. And now he got 2nd place at the 2023 World Championships. He is very much destined for more greatness than he's already kind of, put up. And I love that he's so humble, he's so reserved, but he also does love to speak. He also is, he understands the sport very well, and he's learning so much all the time. I mean, Arion Knighton is going to be very much, the future of the sport. Of course, we see here with Noah Lyles, Noah Lyles is still the number 1 guy at the moment for sure. But I'm loving, the head-to-heads. I'm loving the competition, and I'm excited to see where Arion is going to take his career, whether it's next year or in the next 5 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they have such different characters, but they're both really great athletes.
Absolutely.
So another stunning underage athlete is 17-year-old Birke Heilom, who had an absolutely amazing year. So let's take a look. All her marks are from 2023, over 1,500. She ran 3 minutes 54.93 in Horzo. That's the number 2 mark of all time in the under 18 list and number 5 in the under 20. Of the top 16 under 18 marks of all time at the distance, 9 of them belong to Birke Heilom, all achieved this year. And among the top 14 under 20 marks over 1,500, 4 of them belong to Birke. So really very, very good. At the Diamond League meeting in Oslo, she won the mile in 4:17.13, which is a world under 20 record. Over 3,000 at the finals, at the pre-classic in Eugene, she paced the first 3,000 meters of the 5,000 where Gudaf set the world record, clocking 8:26:03. Now that is 2 seconds better than the world under 20 record, but she didn't finish the race, so that won't count in her resume, which is a pity. And over 5,000, she set the world under 18 best in the London Diamond League meeting with 14:37.94. So definitely future looks very bright for the talented Ethiopian.
I do want to say, I think, she's really, really another one, like you said, the future is looking very bright where, being able to compete amongst the best, women in the world and still hold her own, to still win races, to still finish, kind of in the top of the field, it's not easy, especially when you're talking about the 15, the mile. So really, really bright future for her.
Definitely. So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. So top events for the next fortnight. This weekend, 23 and 24 September, the Decastar, final leg of the combined events tour in France with Grenada's Victor Linden, Budapest bronze medalist, the top name. On Saturday, leading Galopet cross country in Sweden. And on Sunday, the Berlin Marathon is back. Now, among the men, Eliud Kipchoge returns to the city where he set the last two world records. And among the women, 2022 surprise winner Tigist Assefa is also back. 29 September to 5 October, athletics at the Asian Games in Hangzhou. On the 1st of October, World Athletics road running championships in Riga. And I'm a bit curious to see what this road mile will bring. On the 8th of October, the second World Marathon major of the season in Chicago. So lots still to look forward to. So we're now at the end of our program, and it was really great having Anderson with us on the show.
Thank you so much. It was amazing to be able to talk athletics. I love, recapping the year. I think we both had an amazing opportunity to be in Budapest and see so many great competitions. But then even just across the entire year, like we spoke about all these amazing results across the board between, the senior athletes as well as the U20 and U18 athletes. I'm super excited for 2024 Paris for the Olympics. So yeah.
Definitely. And on top of Budapest, you were also in Eugene, so you could, I can only look at the figures, see it on television, but you were there. You were actually living this fabulous pre-classic, so wow.
No, yes, I was glad to cap off the season with the pre-classic. I'm excited. I think Brussels may be the Diamond League final next year, so hoping to be able to go there as well. But we'll see. It'll be exciting no matter what.
Definitely. So thank you so much, Anderson. Thank you all for watching. And as the outdoor season is almost over, we're going to go back to a fortnightly calendar. So see you in 2 weeks on Love Athletics to look together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the last 14 days. Thank you, Anderson. Thank you, everybody. Ciao.